And I saw a video, I think I shared with you a couple weeks ago, that once you reach that state, there's typically only 4 outcomes that come out of it.
Mhm.
And I've got those pulled up here. One is a pseudo democracy. This is a common path where a facade of democracy is created with elections and some political pluralism, but the rules are tilted to ensure the former regime's elites or a new strongman maintain real control and prevent true opposition from taking over.
Mhm.
The second is fragmentation chaos. The collapse of the central authority leads to instability, civil unrest, and the breakdown of state functions, potentially resulting in regional or local strongmen taking control of resources, aka Mad Max, right?
Mhm.
A return to a different kind of authoritarianism. The initial authoritarian regime is replaced by a new, different form of control, potentially military junta or another type of autocratic system, as simply going back to normal is not a viable option. And the fourth is true reform and democracy. And the video I watched, the person said that this is the one that has the smallest percentage of being the likely outcome in, uh, you know, from political analysis, but that again is true reform slash democracy. And it's a rare outcome that requires significant effort and unity among pro democracy forces, often involving nonviolent mass movements, strong civil society, and potentially a profound external influence or total reconstruction after a significant conflict, such as was the case for Germany and Japan after World War II, to completely remake the state's foundation.
So, of those, which one do you feel like we're headed towards, or most likely to experience?
I don't. I probably the fragmentation. I think what we'll have is going to be something, and it's probably going to be a combination of probably the fragmentation chaos, or a return to the different kind of authoritarianism, or maybe even pseudo democracy and fragmentation. But I think what'll happen is that we'll get 4 larger countries, or at least 3. We'll have like the West Coast of, California, Oregon, and Washington for the most part being one large country. Um, I think there will be a Southeast Floridian country,
Mhm.
and then a Northeastern New York country. And again, I don't think the shapes of those countries will look like those current states look like. Um, but I think that'll be the ultimate outcome. I think that's probably where we're headed to. Maybe some version. I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe some version of an American style USSR. Good lord, I started to say multiple S's there.
Mhm.
So, and I think that
Yeah.
it'll probably be that would is my thought process of where we're probably going to head to. Probably
Yeah.
a lot of small ongoing wars where people are fighting for control. People are fighting for the upper hand, which is stupid because I think the right thing to do would be for us to all come together, and we'll probably talk about this later. But it'll be a perfect opportunity to talk about like democratic confederalism,
Mhm.
something similar to Rojava.
Yeah. I think you're onto something. I kind of envision something similar. Except I think mine's a slightly different take in that I sort of imagine like a breakup of the United States similar to how you saw the breakup of the Soviet Union, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I think we're headed towards something similar. I think a lot of people don't really think much about the fact too that our country is made up of so many different cultures within its geographic territory. Like it's made up of, different. I guess demographics, it could be political or even racial and ethnic. And there's a lot going on in our country. Right. And so with this, this, this conflict we've been dealing with, or this slow dismantling of our federal government, it's really, I think, going to play out. I never thought I would say this, but like I kind of agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the need for a national divorce. Like I really do, but I want to. I just let me say the reason why is because I no longer have this what's the word I'm looking for? Like I guess loyalty to or adoration for our this American history, this mythology that we've been taught, because if you really think about it, our territory is so freaking huge, right? Like it in itself is an empire. Okay, forget the fact that we've got bases all over the world. I'm talking about just like the United States, right?
Oh yeah.
Like we literally swept across the country and annihilated native peoples in the process, spread slavery to all these different corners of the country. And like our whole project is empire from the very signing of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, they right then started thinking about expansionism, and how they wanted to expand further and further and further west. And so does it break my heart the way that it probably would have, I don't know, 5 years ago to think about the breakup of our country? Not anymore, because I realized that it's all stolen land anyway, and like the fact of the matter is like over the course of a few centuries, like different cultures in different regions have developed over time. And because we can't have like a government that, delivers for all of us, we're experiencing this fracture that is, I think it's irretrievable at this point. And so the idea of us breaking up into like smaller units, it doesn't bother me the way that it probably used to.
Yeah, I'm pretty much for the most part right there with you. I think that we had a conversation the other day about deconstructing and
Mm-hmm.
deconstructing from the church. For me these days, it's deconstructing from the thought of I'm a capitalist, right? And I've asked myself this a few times over the years: Am I a capitalist, or is it that I was born into capitalism and that's all I've ever known? And everything else is a little daunting, if you will. It's a little unfamiliar, scary. Um, but I don't know that I'm stuck on what we've had or what we would have if we just went back to status quo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a little bit of a journey. That's a continuing journey for me. Um, I definitely started probably 4 or 5 years ago coming to understand the how much the our nation's history was not really what we had been taught in school. Most of it was bits and pieces that were glorified, right? And it was made into something bigger than it really was. Washington never chopped down the cherry tree. Never happened. Um, and he never said, "I cannot tell a lie." Those two things were made up by, I believe, one of his uh, autobiography authors or biography authors later down the road, and put that in there to kind of sell the Americanism, if you will. Um, so yeah, I think I'm right there with you for the most part.
Yeah, I think deconstruction is actually a really good thing for a lot of us on the left right now, whether it's deconstructing from capitalism or deconstructing the history, or the mythology, I should say, that we've grown up to believe. I just feel like this is such an important moment for people on the left to self reflect and yeah, particularly like what makes them like on the left, like there's been so much propagandizing of us, especially our generation. Like, I mean, I have done a lot of like my own like self learning on, you know, leftist political theory, leftist social movements, not just in America, but all over the world. Um,
Can we
because,
can I jump in for a second? I
yes.
want to just because you keep saying leftist, right? And I
Hmm.
keep thinking about the fact that, and several of the influencers I've seen on, especially YouTube, would always say American left, right? And it's so funny to me that we have to have that caveat. You've got the left versus right in the on the world stage. What the rest of the world sees is left versus right, and then you've got the American left versus right.
Hmm.
And I have to wonder how many people in our country don't know truly know what the left versus right is to the rest of the world.
Hmm.
Because most people in our country think that the left here is truly left, but we're not, or they're not. I think I'm getting more and more to true leftist than I was, even 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, but what do you think? Do you think people truly understand left versus right and the difference in the rest of the world's left versus right and American left versus right?
No, I do not think they understand, but it's also complicated because there's so many different components wrapped up into what is considered left versus what is considered right. And I think most people often think of it in terms of like, are you pro capitalist or anti capitalist? Are you for big government or small government? Are you for, what's another one? Equality versus liberty, that's another one. But I have looked at it through like an anthropological lens where I'm looking at the power structure that is um, like inherent in left versus right. Like there's this guy that I watch. I know I sent you a video, and I would encourage you to keep going with his stuff. I know you said you got hung up on a few things that he said, but I would encourage you to keep going because he takes his analysis to like different cultures as well, and talks a lot about like the differences in the power structures. Like typically right wingers, they tend to gravitate towards power structures that are more hierarchical, more top down. In fact, you'll hear a lot of right wingers here in America say, "Oh, we're not a democracy, we're a republic." Well, actually, they're right. They're definitely right. They are not, we are less of a democracy and more of a republic because we literally elect people to make decisions for us. Okay. And that forms a smaller class of people who um, make incredibly important decisions for a much larger number of people, right? That is called representative democracy or a republic. Whereas, like the left, they tend to gravitate towards more horizontal types of power structures where you've got more participatory democracy, more direct democracy, where you find like people forming like councils at the local level, making decisions like democratically and that sort of thing. So like that's a whole nother way to look at the left versus right that most people don't even think about, right? Is like the power structure that the left versus right represents. And so that's more of what I'm thinking about when I think of left versus right these days. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer.
No, 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 no. Don't be sorry. Yeah.
What was the question? I forgot the question. I'm so sorry.
No, so I was just, the original question was that, do you think people truly understand the difference
Oh,
between left versus right? And do you think that they understand there's a difference between the rest of the world's left, right, and American left, right?
Yes. I remember now. Thank you. The answer to your question is no, because it's very complicated. But generally, if we're talking like everyday people, left versus right, like that's the thing. American left versus right is so much further right than any other country's version of the left versus right. Like it's crazy to me that we talk about the left in this country, because that is it leaves so much to be desired in terms of like what left actually is historically and traditionally. That and it really speaks to the propagandization. Is that the word? Propagandization. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. It
Sounds right
really
to me.
speaks to that level of just how much we have been indoctrinated as Americans into um, capitalism, and how it is the only way. It is the only way to be, and it's the only right way. Everything else is going to fail, and it's just yeah, there it's vast. Like for example, France's left versus our left, totally different. Totally different. In fact, I would say our left, if you want to compare it to European standards, our left is probably more like center right in Europe.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's my answer to your question.